I'd like to welcome everyone to today's edition of the Software Spotlight. And joining us today from Stockholm, Sweden, we have Oleg Danylenko, and he's with the company Teemyco. And welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Hello. Nice to be here.
Yeah, pleasure to have you. I know a lot of our listeners have been following the Teemyco solution over the years, and many are wondering what it's all about and excited to have a sneak peek under the hood and behind the scenes and to get some details on the solution. So I was hoping we could start out by giving me a little bit of background on the company and what inspired the idea of the solution.
Sure, absolutely. So maybe for background, I can mention that Teemyco, we're basically working in the remote work space. And that, of course, important for the background because Teemyco was founded in 2019. So before pandemic. Sure. And how it all started in 2019, it was from a lunch me and my co-founder Charlotte had with the CEO of one of the companies in Stockholm. It's a startup that was at that point growing, recruiting a lot of people, and at some point they realized they need to recruit globally, so they decided to become a remote first company. But what they experienced once having headquarters in Sweden, having a couple of hubs in different places, but also individuals working with them from different locations. What they experienced was that it was quite challenging to build one office, one team culture. So people who are individuals working maybe from South America or from another country in Europe, they felt that, okay, headquarters, it's where people meet, it's where things happen, and they didn't really feel included in the same way. And that person, that CEO, shared that it's quite challenging to bring people together, and they tried different tools, different solutions. They had, as many other companies at the time, they had like always on streaming cameras that in different hubs. So basically you could anytime journaling and work together with a colleague from other location, or you can see what's happening in one office or another office. So it kind of the thought of actually creating Teemyco started with that conversation, with that lunch. But once we started looking into space, there was actually much bigger things that we saw as opportunities and the potential in the space. Something that was specifically close for me and that served as a driver and serves as a driver for me in building Teemyco. It's maybe a bit of my personal story. So I'm originally from Ukraine, and I moved to Sweden for career reasons. So I got a position at the university here and I moved.
Sure.
But I know so many people, so many talented people that for some reason they either don't want to leave their homeland. Maybe they have a family they need to take care of. Maybe they have a partner that has a job that's hardly transferable to another country, so to say, maybe doctors or something. And I see so many people that are just like having such huge, tremendous potential, but because maybe things they're good at are not happening in the place where they live, they end up kind of not really utilizing their full potential. So, maybe there is a person who's great engineer, great in physics, and it's not theoretical persons. Actually, I have a friend who is like that. Brilliant at physics, ended up working as software engineer. I think for him, it's on one hand, it's fine. He's earning money. He's has a good job, but I think people like him could do so much more in this world. And there are companies on the other side. There are companies that need people like him. So there's some of the mismatch, and there are many jobs that could be done remotely, but just because we, at that point in 2019 at least, remote job was something fairly niche. A lot of people in a position end up partly wasting their talents, while companies...
Sure. So it really gives companies and individuals the opportunity to connect and hire the best talent, no matter where they are around the world.
Exactly. So that's kind of the bigger internal driver. But if we talk a little bit more specifically about Teemyco and how it got started. So it started from that launch that I mentioned, and then we started to look into this space and, of course, its potential and what's happening practically. And we saw, and again, 2019, so before pandemic, we saw already back then there were a number of trends that were pointing towards growth of remote work. And so it was driven by three key trends we identified at that point. It was global talent, so more and more companies were going beyond their location to find talent.
Right.
It was increasing criticism of excessive business travels. So there were many companies that were flying people back and forth just for a workshop and this kind of stuff. And more and more people became aware about the environmental impact of that. And the third trend was the increasing demand of flexibility from the people, from the younger generations. And then there was a lot of course, service polls and different data points that showed basically that remote work is growing. And
so I would have to imagine that having started all that time ago, that Teemyco has to be one of the first solutions to market with the level of tech that you have available.
So we were one of the first, not the first. There was a couple of solutions. There was one solution that existed for almost ahead maybe of its time, existed for some years before us. So what we wanted with Teemyco is to build a virtual office, but that is not that is fun, but at the same time professional. So there were some solutions that looked fun and engaging and trying to very visually replicate the office. We are trying to find the balance where we are simple and professional, so that it's something you can imagine using every day to day in your professional life without getting tired of the graphical element of it, so to say.
Sure. So it really provides a jumping off point for a virtual office, and I've obviously I'll share I've had some time to work in the platform and explore. Obviously, the technology brings together a lot of tools that companies are already using into one space, which I think over the last few years we've really seen many companies looking to have a consolidation of tools. So I think it works with that trend, but also being able to lay out an office in any style or format or configuration with one floor, multiple floors, multiple areas, and integrating all of the different components into the one platform. It's really exciting. How does the platform work to facilitate spontaneous interactions or conversations between individuals within the company, which may not exist in a remote first workplace, but may exist in a traditional physical workspace?
Yeah. So when it comes to facilitation of more ad hoc spontaneous interactions, so I would say the key is actually the visibility, the visualization of the office and of the people in the office and their context and their status, basically. So because if you think about it, when you want to talk to someone spontaneously, and let's say you're remote, technically there are ways to do that existed since before internet. Like you can always call, and that's direct communication. And there are like things in different platforms that allow you to quick calls. But the main problem why people actually don't do it, it's because you have zero understanding of what is the context of the person you're calling to. So in 95%, you would be calling to get rejected because person is in the meeting or busy or not away, etc. So the important part of actually enabling those spontaneous conversations is to visualize the status of your team, the context of your office. So when you look at your colleague and you see this person is in the focus room, you know it's now maybe not a good time unless you have something super important. If you see person is in the meeting that's scheduled, well, you can have a look at what kind of meeting and decide maybe you want to actually join this meeting, maybe something relevant for you, or you wait for a better opportunity. So, when you work in the physical office and you want to talk to someone, you just raise your head, you look at the colleague and you see immediately, okay, he seems to be available. So that visibility is, I would say, the core, the key to enabling this communication.
So really, going along with social norms, obviously, if it's a good time to reach out to somebody and you do, and you have a good interaction, you're going to take that action again, versus if you reach out to somebody and have a negative reaction, I would think it would be
exactly.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. And I noticed that in the platform you had a lot of different statuses, which now that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that was one example of when you want to initiate conversation. But what can happen as well once you have the visibility is you can see two of your colleagues discussing something in the room. You can see just by statuses. You can see that they are talking, and since you work with them, you probably have the context of what they're talking about. And in case you have some input, or you're wondering about the status of the project, or maybe you have some input, you can just with one click jump in, join their conversation. And this is something that absolutely not happening today in the distributed work. You of course, if it happens in the synchronous channels, those conversations, right, you can see them and you can participate. But all those spontaneous meetings, or many of the scheduled meetings even, they happen in the parallel universe in your calendar. So they're happening, but you would not know about it unless you actually actively check calendars of your colleagues to see when will they talk about it, or what's their agenda looks like today, which you normally don't do, of course. So even that, just seeing meetings that are happening, that gives you possibility to participate in something that you would not participate otherwise.
So it probably brings a lot of other types of creativity and opportunities to explore different things that may happen in a traditional office setting, but may not happen if people are just behind their computers using all the tools that they're normally using, and just 100% focused on what's coming at them, versus being able to interact in this way. So really, that's really exciting, and it sounds like it's a solution that can be used by all different types of companies. Do you see different types of companies using the solution more than others, or is it a best fit for a certain type of company, or a size of company, or an industry, or what do you say?
So in general, I can say there is a wide range of types of companies that can use Teemyco, but there is a few things that need, few properties that are necessary. One is company needs to have a high degree of remoteness to really get the biggest value from Teemyco. Because if you are either non-remote company or hybrid company where many days a week you actually see your colleagues physically, you can still get value of Teemyco, but it's not as big as if you're actually have colleagues who are never in the office, or you never synchronously in the office at the same time.
Sure.
So that would be one thing. Second thing is that the type of work you do, it's best for the companies where there is high degree of interdependence, when you actually need to talk to each other, to unblock yourself, to be efficient with your work. If you're a kind of organization where you sort of everybody does own thing, and maybe you meet for weekly meetings, we have even those companies. They often use Teemyco more for the social component, for social bonding. But it's much more powerful when you actually have interdependence, when those ad hoc communications, they are not just for the social need, but they're both social and productivity needs, unblocking yourself, building stronger team relations, etc.
Sure, and obviously there are probably a lot of people that are using the platform that may never at this point have been in a physical office. So it may be much more something that these individuals are much more accustomed to. But it's interesting because I think a lot of people, as they're heading back to work post-pandemic, are finding that they get to the office and everyone is moved to other parts of the country, other parts of the world, and they're actually in a physical office, but end up dialing in anyways. So I think, it is really a mega trend in terms of, I think you're at the epicenter of where every company is or is heading. So it's really very, very timely. And obviously you launched the company at a point at which it was a very important solution to make available. So a lot there. What are some of the creative ways you've seen customers use the spaces for team building or social events that you can think of that may be different than what you would originally expected when you launched the platform?
So it's kind of, we provide the space and we give some ideas to customers, but then it's up to them to really use it in different fun ways. And we've seen a lot of fun. Most fun we saw with creativity that comes when people design their offices. So we've seen very different themes for office room naming, etc. Just to give some examples, so people naming their rooms like bed caves and like superhero names.
Sure.
Sometimes it looks absolutely random to us, but has like some kind of unique cultural aspect of that specific company. The most fun, I think, was one game development company from Finland. When we did the demo with them, we realized that in their office they have rooms like a few of restrooms, like WC rooms, and we asked okay, why do you need that in the visual office? And it turned out they used that as a fun way to signal focus, like don't disturb me. And so when people were focusing, they would they would place themselves in the virtual restroom in that office layout.
That's great.
But when it comes to actually what happens in the room, there are many different things people do. It's hard to pinpoint something specific, but one thing that we really like and we do ourselves and we advise our customers to do, it's for example, you onboard new people when you have a new person in your team, in your company, to create for the first week or two of this person's work, create a room called Welcome John and ask the person to hang out there from time to time in the first weeks. What this creates is gives opportunity for other colleagues to jump in, say hi, introduce in a kind of informal way, not by scheduling one-on-ones with every single person in the company, but in an informal way, just making themselves available, signaling, hey, I'm open to talk. And then the team just eventually jumps in and says hi, some fun informal conversations happen. So this, I think, one of the quite practical ways. But then, of course,
That's a great
people
idea.
play all different kinds of games. I mean, this really became normal during pandemic, so there's no surprises there. Like
Sure.
game nights, get to know me better sessions, some kind of love bombing sessions, all the different, like, people's creativity is the only limit. So with those sessions, we're given some advices and inspiration to people, but it's not like we're specifically built for game nights or something. Like we serve as a platform, as a way to communicate while people play in those games.
Great. And as far as are there within the platform, are there certain metrics that a company can look at to understand the connectivity or happiness or productivity of their employees, or are there different ways in which you're able to measure, what's going on within the platform?
Yeah, so all in all, we look at a number of different engagement metrics and how people interact with the platform, but it's not always straightforward how to transform those hard metrics into like psychological well-being metrics, etc. But so what we did, because that's of course for us those insights are important. What we did is we launched a survey that where after a few weeks of using Teemyco, people responded on a number of questions and rated how much certain aspects changed since they started using Teemyco. And
Sure.
there we actually got really exciting results. So 91% of people reported that they feel more connected to their team, bottlenecks, and 84% felt happier at work. So there's like really those metrics really shows to us that okay, we are doing some impact, we are creating some impact, we are doing something good for those customers.
Wow, that's really exciting. So those are very positive metrics. Have you been measuring like over time, responses from different groups to be able to compare some of the satisfaction, or just at points in time, or how have you
For these
been
metrics,
measuring?
for this metrics, so far we just ran it once. So we are planning to do it over time, but we are fairly young as a company, so we did it once.
I think
we did it once.
that would be really, really interesting to see how that evolves. But that's an amazing starting point for those type of metrics. Overall, I think it would be neat to see to see a demo of the solution, so people who are watching the podcast can understand. At the bottom, there's the little up arrow with the share, where you can share a tab, and that would be great to see a visual of the environment. I think a lot of companies are working in remote environments, but may not have a tool like this that allows them to gain the most out of that solution. So this is great.
Here you can see this is our office actually right now, and I can say immediately it is a little bit messy because it's our office, so we also use it for testing. For example, recently we released Christmas objects for people to decorate their office for Christmas. So you see a lot of Christmas theme here, just because we were testing all of that. But when it comes to our product, so what you see here is our office, and you can see it consists of a bunch of different spaces and rooms. And then you can, in each of the rooms, you can see avatars. So, and here you can see an example of two people actually talking. And how I know they are in some sort of active communication is that they have the camera icon. It means they have cameras on. So they're not just sitting together, but they actually have some kind of interaction. And what this gives immediately is I can see, okay, there is two people in the focus mode here, me I've placed myself into phone booth, so I'm indicating that I'm an external call outside Teemyco. And then there is a bunch of people just sitting and working in two of our teams, and one person is in the launch. So you kind of immediately see, okay, well, probably these people I should not disturb. They're focusing. People here and here, I can start conversation. They're just working in a neutral mode, so to say. And people here, they are in communication, but maybe I want to join. It's a QA lab, so I guess they're testing. You can see there's some guest popped up. Probably there's some working on the guest experience. And then if I have some thoughts, I can just jump in. And maybe that's actually what I can do, just to show you the conversation part of the platform. Now I'm using multiple screens, so here I'm dragging my call window to the right screen. Now it can get because I'm in two video calls now, it can get a bit slow, I guess. So now you can see I'm in the room.
Oh, that's a lot of fun. So you can actually see other people in the room, and I love it.
Hello, guys. I'm just demoing. Sorry for distracting. So it's that easy. You basically all I did, I clicked on the room and then just enable my camera and microphone, and I could join their conversation.
Got it.
But I will leave because it's being in two video calls can get hard and confusing. But basically, or maybe one more thing I can show you about the video call. So right now, this floating video that popped up, it's always on top. So I can work with other tools. I can open Google Docs and at the same time keep this window floating on top. So I always feel like collaborating with my colleagues. But also if I'm in a more meetings scenario, I can just, of course, zoom in and just have a normal video call. So
one-on-one meeting.
Exactly. So you can have, so it's kind of a typical video experience here. Nothing in this sense, nothing special. So, and each of those rooms is basically video enabled, almost each of those, except this rooms created with the purpose of being focusing or be indicating that you are away. So in each of those rooms, you can just jump in, start conversation, leave as you want. And you can do ad hoc meetings, you can do scheduled meetings, you can use it the way you want, so you can cover your communication needs. Here, also you can see that on one of the rooms I have the calendar indication, so it's I have a meeting with Peter starting in this room soon. So that's where we have integration with the calendar, so you can actually get a quick overview of what other people are doing if they have some event booked. Here, for example, or for yourself, you have this panel on top where we pull your agenda for today, so you can join any meetings directly from Teemyco without switching back and forth calendar.
Yeah, so it really integrates all of your different tools into one view. And I noticed there at the bottom, it looked like it had everyone's social profiles and Slack and different tools that are integrated.
Yes, exactly. So we have integration with Slack, and the purpose of Slack integration is simple. So Teemyco, we provide first of all synchronous communication. That's the core of what we do. And then, of course, companies can use different solutions for other aspects of their communication. They can use our own chat if they want to, but if it's an organization that's already using Slack or Microsoft Teams, we want them, of course, to be able to make use of those platforms without having to do a full switch, so to say, immediately. So with Slack...
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense because obviously a lot of organizations already have tools that they're using, so you've just integrated them into your communication channel here. That's neat.
So what we're trying to achieve here is that, the first step when you want to talk to someone is you need to decide what channel to use. Email, Slack, just directly via ad hoc communication, join with video, or maybe you want to schedule a meeting. And what we want to achieve is that by looking at this view, you can immediately understand, well, this person is not available, so maybe I'll just Slack. Then you click the Slack button and will bring up immediately chat with this person in Slack for you. So you don't have to look for a person in Teemyco, and then if person is not available, go to Slack and look for this person again. So we transition you in an easy, smooth manner to other tools you use. And speaking of integrations, maybe something I can highlight here as well. We have a concept so-called room wall. Here on the right, you can see this panel.
Sure.
And this is the place. So what we want is that you can bring your tools into the right context. So when you are in the room having conversation, you have also a set of your tools that you typically use in this context. And when I say context in this case, I mean this is a product team room. So that's where product team has their dailies, their plannings, and basically all of their meetings. And of course, every day they have a daily. They open up their board with tickets. They might want to look at the KPIs and or OKRs. They might have a look at the roadmap. So of course, like having this room wall with those pinned tools allows you to quickly bring something up without going to your browser looking for a right link, etc. And if you use desktop version, desktop client, you can actually open it up directly in Teemyco, so you don't have to leave the platform to see that. Here I just opened Help Center just for the sake of the demo, but you can basically, in this case, we serve as a browser more or less, so you can just open almost any cloud tool you want.
So, and that brings up another good question. So, are people able to just view different documents and things, or are they able to interact with them? Or does it depend on the platform?
So, this room wall, it's unique per room. And then what we do once you click here, we open this tool on your device. So what you can or cannot do, it's still controlled by the permissions set within that tool.
Sure.
So we of course don't want to break the.
So it respects the privacy and
exactly.
security and all of that. I got it. That's great. That was really what I was wondering.
And then maybe to add, and this like you can see it when you are in this room, but you can also see other what let's say other team has in their KPIs or in their roadmap, etc. So it allows you to almost like create in each team room, for example, create a little bit of a home page for that team that team can use, but also external people can access.
So you're not only providing the space to collaborate, but you're also allowing users to collaborate with the tools that they're familiar with within those spaces.
Exactly.
Neat. Now, can you show us the different statuses? I know you mentioned that was a fairly important component to this.
So there's, when it comes to visualization of the status and context, there's a few layers. The first layer is in which room you are. That's what I've already covered. Depending on the room, you can understand if the person is in the scheduled meeting or focusing, etc. Second level is when the person is in the room, you can see whether they are actually actively communicating, like Marcin and Gabi. They actually have microphone on, so you can see, okay, they are actually speaking. They are not just working in the same room. They're actually actively communicating. That's a second level. Third level is integration with the calendar. Once you see they are communicating, you can see, is there a meeting that they have? In this case, no, it's just ad hoc, no meeting. Here on the room, I would see, okay, well, they have a scheduled meeting, and then that's the third layer. And those happen automatically, more or less, as via integrations or as you collaborate. And then there is additional layer, which is more manual. So you can basically set a status for yourself. Maybe I want to indicate that I'm taking a break for 30 minutes. And so then a small icon pops up here, and I can see, okay, Oleg is taking a break. So that kind of provides additional context. If someone maybe is in the kitchen, you can indicate like that you are having lunch, or if you are away, you can put that you are walking a dog for 10 minutes. So it gives
Sure.
additional
My favorite
context.
status was kids are around. I
Exactly.
mean that's yeah, and
That's
great.
that's remote work. Sometimes you might work from an unusual environment, or maybe your kids are sick at home and you're just
Sure.
sneakily working a little bit. So you want to communicate this to your team.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think everyone has personal lives, and that's part of our world.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
and are there any other main high level integration features that teams find really useful that you wanted to highlight? Or I know you mentioned Slack. I know you mentioned Teams.
So I would, from the deeper integration, it's Slack and Calendar, Google Calendar and Outlook Calendar. And then via Roomwall, you can integrate many different tools. It's not a deep integration where we integrate via API, but you can basically
Sure.
pin different things. So I think that covers the integrations component.
Great. I mean that's fantastic to see the visual, and I love all of the holiday decorations and all of that. It does add quite a bit to the feel.
And
So
maybe important
that's
part
great.
to show actually that the space is fully customizable. So it's we are not dictating how your space looks like. This is so we have a build mode, and then you can reshape, resize, rename. You can do whatever you want with the rooms, and that's of course very important, because that's when you as a company can by via office design facilitate a certain kind of collaboration happening, or a social communication happening. And also we provide the abilities to brand your office. So if your company has maybe pink as your color,
Okay, so colors and branding and things like
and
that.
we try to keep it simple, so it's not like super. Don't need to be a designer and change
Sure.
hundred of things, but a few simple settings, and you add a little bit of your personal your branding into the office. And of course, you can change like logos and carpet in this room, etc.
Sure. No, that's fun. As far as like different size organizations, let's say a company had, 50 people distributed around the world versus a company that had 500 people. Are there different considerations for different size companies, or is it just a very scalable platform?
So for companies that are bigger and that don't fit in one floor in a nice way, so we have concept of floors. Here we have many
Okay.
floors. In our case, most of those floors are empty. It's experimenting with different layouts, but I can just
Sure.
open a random floor, and here one way to design your office. So this is a bit more cleaner than our floor. But basically you can, because if you are a bigger company, it doesn't mean that you need to see everybody. Actually, if you saw everybody on the same floor, you wouldn't be able to grasp it. So you
Sure.
always structure it around some kind of areas. So then those areas can live in different floors. You can still interact with those people, but most of the time you only see your part of the organization. And so that's
So
how you scale.
would it
Basically, you build up floors.
yeah. Does it make sense to structure? And obviously, there's no right or wrong answer, but do you see companies structuring their floors by organizational area? So maybe marketing on one floor, sales and manufacturing on different floors, and things like that, or do you see more of a common workspace? I mean, obviously, you have many clients using the system in different ways,
Yes.
just in terms of ideas or creativity.
So there are few general patterns we see. Three main routes, so to say, companies take when designing their office. Some companies,
Okay.
typically very small companies, sometimes they actually have a room per person. That's not very typical,
Okay.
but that's we've seen that. Then there is second way is room per team. That is probably the most typical with our customers. When for each room you have for each team you have a room dedicated to the team where they have their dailies, their routine meetings, etc. And third way, which is also quite common, it's for companies that work with projects, maybe agencies, different kind of digital agencies, where they work with multiple customers, multiple projects. They create room per project, and then they can use it, those rooms, both to store some key documents in that room for room wall, to communicate around project in that room, and they can even invite their external customers or partners into that room for ad hoc communication with external
Oh, that's
users.
great.
So those are the three directions. And when it comes to floors, typically people structure it by organizational areas. So not by function, but by part of the organization, so to say. So that because one of the great advantages of Teemyco is that it helps you bring silos together, and so you don't want to put I don't know, marketing part of the organization and engineering part into different floors and create silos. You actually want them, those cross-functional areas in one floor to facilitate the conversations between them. So typically,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
division is not on function, but on area. But again, it all depends on what you want to achieve as a company and what's your culture and organization structure.
Sure, and obviously the invitation process is pretty straightforward to invite a new team member or what have you. But can you talk a little bit more? You kind of touched a little bit on vendors and partners and things like that. How would a vendor or a partner kind of interact with people within the office? How is that done?
So if you want to invite your partner to the office, you can of course just invite as a full member, and then they get full member access. If it's more limited partnerships, what you can do is you can share your office link or personal link. So that's actually something we are built fairly recently, and also do a lot of iterations on there. But you basically you have an office address as office link. So when people come to your office using office link, you can decide whether you want to be notified or not. So people they land in the lobby, in the reception, and then those people who chose to be notified for office guests, they get a prompt saying, John is waiting in the lobby. And then from there, you as a host, as a member of the office, can pull that person into the right room.
That's great. So, for example, yeah, I mean, let's say we were Walmart and we wanted to invite a vendor in to give a demo of their solution or show us a new product. So they would wait in the lobby, just like in a traditional experience. And then when somebody wants to let them in, they could be let into a room to interact with whoever the appropriate people were.
Okay. So. And also we have a personal link, which is similar, but it's your personal contact, so to say. So when people use that link, they get to the reception as well, but it's only you who get notified. So it's perfect. For example, if you want if you want people to have easy way to reach you can put it in your email signature. There's many creative ways you can use it, but basically this is your direct line, and people can click on the link and you get notified, and you can choose whether you are available now or whether now is not a good time.
So you could set up a specific time for a meeting or something like that, and they could come in, wait in the lobby, and then you would meet them at that time. That type of thing.
So the personal link is more for like always on. So it's like giving a phone number. You give a link, and then people at any moment can try to reach you in your office. But if you want for a specific meeting, like when you book meeting, like we have calendar extension. So when you book meetings in calendar, you can just choose Teemyco the same way as you choose Zoom or Microsoft Teams or other video providers. And then we create unique link that you can then map to any room you want. So in this case, it's a simpler flow because then your meeting guests, they get directly into the room you chose.
Makes a lot of sense.
So that flow is simpler. And you can, of course, always just copy a link to a room and, just share it right now.
Is there an option to expire a link, like after you've had a meeting with a vendor or something like that?
Yeah. So for meeting links, they are just for one meeting, so they expire after some time. For personal links, the general idea is that they are more permanent links. It's like your address, your phone number.
Sense.
Of course, if it happens so that you accidentally leaked your link in the place where you didn't want to have, maybe you send it to someone who should not get it, and then you get some spammers clicking on it for some reason. So you get a way, of course, to reset it. So then the whole becomes invalid and you get a new link. So those measures are here. But the whole point with these two links is that they serve as your permanent address to reach you, unless something happens.
That's fantastic. That's a very creative concept. So as far as, I just want to make sure we have time to talk about it. Are there any recent features that you've released that are timely that you wanted to talk about, or new features that are on the roadmap and coming up that you wanted to share?
Yes, absolutely. So from the stuff that we recently released, I would say this guest experience, the office guest and the personal guest, is this things we recently released, and we did it based on the customer feedback. We had users asking, can we have a way to put our contact information, some kind of link in the email footer so that people can easily reach us at any point. And that's why those things were built. And we are doing some improvements there, some creative ways. Of course, we want to facilitate people using those links in creative ways. So there is more improvements and iterations coming there, where you can get not just link, but you can get sort of widgets you can embed in different things. But from the things that we are currently working on that's coming soon, we have also mobile apps for iOS and Android. So you can basically, if you are on the go and need to join the meeting, no problem, you can use that. So what we're working on right now to also make mobile apps more feature complete. So right now it's has limited functionality comparing to desktop and web client. So that's something, again, based on the customer feedback. We want to give more options to mobile users who use Teemyco in a more full manner. We're working on some customization options, and integrations, of course, is always requested, always interesting for our users. But what we are also working on is the refinement of the concept and of different behaviors given, because everybody is unique, everybody wants different preferences. Some people want to have this default state of the camera, some people don't want it. So we're trying to give more control and level up the usability of the product so that people can give more options to people. So that's maybe the stuff we're working on right now. It might sound a bit boring because it's not like exciting features, but what we feel.
No, but obviously for someone who's in the platform every day, these are key considerations.
Yeah. So those are the things that are coming.
And is that and I think you kind of alluded to it, but is that pretty much how you pick the path for new features and things like that, through user feedback and the like?
Yes and yes and no. Of course, there is a mix, because sometimes customers don't know they need something until they get this.
Right.
Actually, one example maybe I should have shown during the demo, but you can see Marcin here. He has a hat, like tiny hat. This is something we came up with. It's called kudos hats. In the physical office, when someone does a good job, you like maybe high five or pat on the back, etc. Which is a bit awkward. It becomes a bit awkward in the digital space. So what we have is virtual kudos hats. So you have this hat on every person, and you can just reward person with a hat, saying, okay, Julian is high achiever.
That's kind of fun.
Great job with something. And then you can send this hat. And if I send it and Julian accepts it, it will be visible in the office for everybody. So it's kind of this sense to facilitate the feedback, the reward, and the share of recognition for the full team. So it's really fun. And those was one of the things where no one asked for it, but we thought that we need to do something about it. We need to give people ways to recognize each other. But many of the things, they are based on the users, and we are trying to be very user centric. And one of the first things that we had in the platform is feedback button. It's actually used to be a big yellow button in the early days, in the first versions, because we really want people to make sure that people see it and share their feedback. And a lot of the early improvements and product development was based on the feedback we got via that integration with the feedback gathering platform.
And one other question. So what kind of advice would you give to a manager who's trying to build culture and unity within their remote team, who's getting started with the platform?
Maybe like one or two important advices when actually starting with our platform. It's when you introduce Teemyco, don't just or similar tool, don't just say, hey, here is something I signed up for. Let's give it a try, maybe. But since the platform, it relies on people being together, so when you start using Teemyco, you want to make sure that people actually start at the same time and commit to do a proper trial for week or two. So you say, let's for the next 2 weeks do our dailies in Teemyco, for example. So you sort of have to do that if you want to really experience the value, because you need people to be there. So on average, users use Teemyco 7.8 hours a day. So it's not something you start for a meeting and then you close. It's something that you have in the background. So that's maybe like specifically starting with similar platforms. But on advices how to facilitate culture, I think it's one interesting thing I mentioned before is when you onboard people, creating those rooms, it helps really with onboarding, creating a welcome room for the people, for the new people. Another part, I would say, make sure that you make Office your own, because we put a lot of efforts into giving tools to users so that when you work with Teemyco, it doesn't feel like a Teemyco platform. It feels like your office. So we really advise you to decorate it, bring in some of your unique culture, some of your branding. So when people join, they feel this is my space. It's not some generic tool. It's actually our space. And maybe even organize a session with your team where you design your space together, where you can kind of together shape it up in the way you want. So it almost becomes like a team building exercise to design your virtual office.
That makes a lot of sense. Obviously, making it feel like your company. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then finally, can you give us an idea of, in your space of the market, what you're seeing for big trends as we're heading into 2024?
So post-pandemic, there was a lot of discussions going back to office, not going back to office, etc. So what we see now in 2023, all the metrics show that the share of remote work stabilized. So it was very high during pandemic, then it went a bit down, or quite a bit down, and now it's stable. So even though in the news sometimes you can see big companies pushing back to office. On average, the office occupancy is flat. Many things are flat now. And the prediction is that it will start now growing again with the healthier growth rates. So that's one of the trends. So what's important to understand that remote work and flexible work is not anymore future of work. It's actually became the present of work. Many companies do that and embrace that model. And in terms of other trends, there are many companies that experimented with different flavors of hybrid. So for hybrid companies, it seems that the approach of structured hybrid is the best now. And structured hybrid, it's when you have, when you're not just saying you can come to office anytime you want, but you say, well, Tuesdays and Thursdays we are in the office. Please, let's come to office. The other days it's up to you. And but that's among hybrid. So that seems to be the winning approach according to the different experiments and that.
Sure. So it gives a level of expectations.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. And then for listeners that are still with us and excited about getting started with the platform and want to get up and running, obviously we'll leave a link in the show notes for people to get started. But can you talk a little bit about the pricing models and licensing and how would a company decide how to get started?
Okay, so when it comes to pricing, we have quite simple model. So we have price per seat, and then you can choose either to pay monthly or yearly. So if you pay yearly, it's $6 per user per month. If you choose to pay monthly, it's $8 per user per month. So that's pretty much the structure.
That's great. That's the most straightforward pricing I've seen. It doesn't get any simpler than that. And can a company start with the free trial and then transition to either monthly or yearly? How does that work? Is that
So you can just sign up. Like you don't need to give credit card, make any decisions early on on the yearly or monthly commitment. You can just start free trial. It's 14 days, and then when it's over, you decide which model to go for.
Yeah, it doesn't get fairer than that. So no, I have to say I actually have used a solution, in several different applications, including one that was a little bit unique, a trade show that was actually hosted on the platform. So, I think the technology is absolutely current and really integrates everything that a company could need in a remote office environment. And I think that the commitment to continuing to evolve and the roadmap that you talked about makes a lot of sense. So really appreciate your taking the time out to join us on the podcast today. And just wanted to give everyone an idea of our next podcast. The next show that we'll have is with Kanad Bakler, who is the Chief Product Officer and co-founder of Potion. Potion is a video prospecting tool designed for sales professionals to help them record personalized videos at scale and to send prospects these proposals. So that's an AI-driven solution and something very exciting we're looking forward to seeing. And I'd like to thank you for your time, Oleg, joining us on the Software Spotlight today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.